Alison Wem. I'm a healer, a mentor, particularly for people when they're having spiritual experiences and don't know what's happening to them. And I'm also a psychic medium, so I help to bring forward messages from their own soul or their guides or people that they loved who've passed over. So it's all about helping people to lead better lives. So the topic today is about my book. My book is being published tomorrow, the 1st of September is the official publication date, and it's called The Secrets of Your Soul. And today we'll be addressing some of the topics in that: past lives, understanding spiritual development, and what can humanity look forwards to. So what is the book about? Well, it's all about, it's a story of really a heartfelt 5,000 years struggle for Andrea's soul to evolve. During that time, she experiences love and loss, betrayal, violence, tragedy, but also, and I think really importantly so, she experienced kindness and friendship. And that whole mix of experiences have helped to make Andrea who she is today. So who's Andrea? Well, she's somebody I met when we were both young widows together, and we worked together to really recover from our widowhood and to rebuild our lives. At the time, she used soul maps, the technique that are the subject of my first two books, about exploring who you are and going deeper within to meet your soul. So we did this together, and through the process I met Andrea's soul. And this book is a narration between Andrea's soul and myself. And it's almost like an investigative novel, because it doesn't just talk about the past lives. It then asks Andrea, so what did you learn in those lives? And how does that impact your life today that you're actually living? And you can see where she's learning things over a very long time scale. And she's learning particular life lessons, and then she's practicing them, and then she's demonstrating that she has mastered them. So today, I've had some people ask her questions, and I've got one from Doris in Reading, and she's saying, how do you identify past lives? Well, not everybody can remember their past lives. It was a little bit unusual with Andrea that as we worked our soul maps, they just came tumbling out. And my observation is that she remembered a past life when there was a challenge in her current life, that there was a skill she'd already learnt in a past life or a situation she'd already experienced that could help her today in this life. So we don't all have the luxury of remembering past lives, but we've all got a body and we've all got our emotions, and we will, if we observe them, there will be wisps of past lives in our bodies and our emotions. So it's not altogether surprising in a world of right-handed people, and until relatively recently in history it was all about swords and daggers and sticks and stones, that our left-hand side of our body, which is where our opponents would be targeting, is often where you find unexplained pains. So you might have an ache in your side, or a dodgy knee, or a foot that doesn't work quite well. These are all little wisps of things you've remembered from a past life, and it's impacting you today. And it's the same with our emotions. Some of our phobias are all about almost reliving some experiences from a previous life. So for Andrea, she was claustrophobic and she didn't know why. And if she went in a small lift, she was really edgy, waiting to get out of the lift. And then one day it came tumbling out. She'd been a mother and a Cathar in the 1200s in the southern part of France, and the Cathars were persecuted. In her village, they saw the invaders coming, so the women and children ran and hid in some caves that overlooked the village. And there they huddled while their men faced their invaders and sadly died. The invaders came looking for the women and children, and they found them in the cave. But they didn't come in as they expected and violate them. What they did is they bricked up the front of the cave and left the women and children to die by suffocation. And this phobia of Andrea's was a whisper of that past life that she was still experiencing and remembering through her emotions. Now, not long after she had that memory, and often when you remember a past life or you identify something in your body and your emotions and you explore it, the angst of it starts to dissipate and to die down. Now, Andrea had a problem with her heart and she had to have a full body scan. And for anybody here who's done it, a full body scan is not exactly a great experience. You're flat on your back and you're put in a very small tube, and it's very noisy apparently as the magnets take pictures, all round pictures of you. So she went through this and she was dreading it because she knew of her claustrophobia. But she trusted her soul to look after her, and she remembered that she had already overcome an experience and her phobia was weakening. And she managed to go through that scan without difficulty. She didn't come out traumatized or challenging and dying to get out. She did as the doctors asked. So I felt that remembering that life helped her through something that was quite challenging in her current life. So I had some advanced readers, friends, colleagues, people that responded to my requests from emails I sent out to read an early version of my book. And we got some great feedback, which changed the shape of the book a bit, changed how we presented things to make it more readable. So in terms of past lives, I got a great comment. Let me get it right. It's from Andrew Mays in Leatherhead. And this is what he says. I'm going to read it to make sure I've got it right. I've never read a book like this with such richness of past lives, life expression and interpretation, and the self-awareness of Andrea is striking. I thought you did a brilliant job of capturing this throughout. So thank you, Andrew. Great comment. But it wasn't really about my narration skills. It was really about, for me, the fact that the book can express past lives, but not just tell you about it, which is, okay, that's sort of nice. But it also then goes on to talk, so what did you learn from this life? And how is it influencing your life today? So next question. What are life lessons and how are they demonstrated in the book? So this is from Jared in New York. So a life lesson is a term I've used in all of my books, and it's about something you need to learn in this lifetime. And it's not about acquiring big houses and fast cars. It's often about human behaviour, how you interact with other people and how you behave in yourself. So an example of a life lesson might be learning to listen to people, being patient, being honest, or perhaps defining your boundaries and holding them. So they're all about learning better behaviours and therefore being a better self and living a better life. Because once you've learnt a lesson, let's rewind, while you're still learning a lesson, you're given repeated opportunities to learn it and to practice it and then to demonstrate you've learnt it. But once you can demonstrate you've learnt a particular lesson, those challenges in your life will start to fade away. Now, it's your soul that's managing your lives. Whether you believe whether you've got a soul or not, it's working diligently away for you, quietly getting on with what it has to do. And it's looking at past lives, the most recent past lives, and said, well, we were trying to learn this. Did they learn it? Oh, yes, learnt that one, but this one, not quite so sure about. So in this life, it's presented again. And you can either need to practice more, or you can demonstrate you've learnt it. And then your soul is continually reviewing how you're doing in this lifetime, and then starting to plan your potential upcoming lives and deciding what sort of life lessons you want to put in it to learn next time round. So if you don't get it right this time, don't worry, you'll get a chance next time. Right, so life lessons. So the quote from another advanced reader, this time it's Lawrence Benson from Cambridge, and what he says about life lessons is this: I very much enjoyed reading Secrets of Your Soul and would recommend it to anyone who has an interest in spirituality. I particularly liked the way that deep, meaningful lessons, which are also down-to-earth practical lessons, are deduced from previous lives and applied to the present and the future. So that's what he took from the book. For more detail, you'll have to read the book. Anyway, the next and last question is, how do you describe the path of spiritual development? And that's a question from Fiona in Frome. Right, so spiritual development, it's a hot topic at the moment, but I think there's many ways of describing it. But when I was analysing Andrea's lives, I definitely had an aha moment when I was looking at the life lessons she had learnt in each life. So in each life, there's like, what have I learnt? Or a message from Spirit. And what I did is I laid out, extracted from the book, all of the life lessons in chronological order. And I took out the ones which were specifically about learning a particular life lesson. And then I looked at what I got left. And for me, it was very much an aha moment, because what it was all the messages of encouragement and direction and support that Andrea was receiving from her own soul and her guides. And it was things like, you're not alone, you're loved, you're guided. If you don't succeed this time, never mind, try again next time. And what I've done, because when I read it, I just thought, oh wow, everybody's spiritual path and spiritual development is slightly different, whatever you experience. But if you looked at this generically and read it in order, it gives you an idea about how personal it can be. So you're never alone. Well, Andrea just lost her life partner, so perhaps she felt very alone. So it was really important for her to know that on this journey, she was with people, she was with other people, and she was guided. So read that in the book. I found it really interesting. I hope you do too. And it's very different from the sort of theoretical approaches that you read in many books or articles. This was Andrea's path, and some of it you may recognise for your path too. So this is what one of my advanced readers commented on some of this actual spiritual development side. And it's Katrina Stafford from Exeter. And she says, this book offers an explanation about what is happening in the mad world today and what we can do to stay sane and remain optimistic and calm. And I think she makes a good point there. So for me, it's not just about looking at my personal past lives and what I'm learning. It's also about what's going on in the world around us and what role do we play in humanity. And I think part of the ideas in this book and the expression of the past lives is to describe to you perhaps a wider reality of life. So when we're at school and we're learning, we're often taught that we're very separate. Think about those exam situations where you're sitting at your little desk in the school hall and you're a little island just on your own, and another desk is quite a long way away from you, so you can't look at what they're doing. But I feel the reality of real living is that we're much more connected than we realise. And it's sort of going on whether you believe in it or not. So that makes you ask then, if there is a reality of multiple lives that you're learning in, and it's not a case of being born, living a life and dying and that's it, game over, what does that make death? And for me, in analysing all that Andrea has given to us and talked about, it feels to me like death, which is often in the West a topic never discussed, is a transition. It's no more than a transition from one life to the next. So when we die, we go back to from whence we came. We learn a little bit more by looking at the life we've just had, a bit like a review when you do it at school and you look at your end of term report. And then when you're ready, you jump back into another life. So you go into the next term and you start to learn things again. And I think it's about looking forwards. What is humanity? What can we expect? And in the book, there are some predictions that are based on the Alice Bailey work. And it also relates to how you can contribute personally. And there's some 7 very easy to do spiritual practices. But that will all be the topic of tomorrow's chat. And I'll get to record it this time at the right time when I learned how to press the right buttons on Facebook. So join me tomorrow. Another talk, a bit more about the topic of spiritual development, what we can expect for humanity, and what can your contribution be to that in the little simple ways as you live your day-to-day life. And don't forget, my book publishes tomorrow. You can read much more about the topic in Secrets of Your Soul on Amazon. Official publication tomorrow. Discounted price for the weekend, £1.24 in the UK, $1.99 in the US and across other countries. So just less than a third of a price of coffee. That's all you need to invest to investigate a little bit more about your spiritual self. So goodbye for now and see you tomorrow. Bye.